Action. Good morning.
Morning, Jack.
We are going to be going through this next block of training. I'm not going to call it phase because it's not super different to the last phase. It's just another block. We're going to go through what the key focuses are, what the underlying focuses are, and everything in between. So basic outline of the phase, it's going to be 4 weeks of intense training, and then a 5th week, kind of a reset week. I feel like reset week sounds a little bit better for a class program than a deload week, because I know members still come in wanting to get somewhat flogged, but it kind of gives us an opportunity to be like, right, this is an easier week for those members that have been consistent, but it just gives us a chance to reset before then flowing into the next either phase or block. Right, Jamie, where do you want to start?
Should we give the people what they want?
Let's
Weightlifting.
Let's do
That's
it.
it. No, well, people like burpees when they don't like burpees. No one likes burpees. Everyone likes a bit of weightlifting.
They do.
And I think our phase is going to be centered around time under tension, but completing weightlifting complexes. Mm-hmm. So at the moment, quite popular, the CrossFit semi-finals all hosted that crazy complex that the Brazilian lad Guy absolutely knocked out the park, and people like Tia were like dominating with like the top line guys at gyms. So speaking from yours truly, just trying to get 1 extra kilo than Tia on that complex. So yeah, we thought that'd be a good way to go, and it also sits alongside our athlete plan as well. So on the athlete plan, Dave is now phasing out the no hook, no contact, which we deliberately didn't put in just because of the confusion and the coaching element. But as that starts to blend in to more complex work, you'll see lots of similarities between the class plan and the athlete plan.
So as an initial test, you use the semi-final complex for the clean and jerk. We've also got one for the snatch as well.
That's correct.
And you went for the 3-position snatch, didn't you? Which is a classic.
Yeah, I think it's also like a bit of a homage to actual CrossFit weightlifting. Recently, I went on the Bergman strength course and took some great bits from there. And one of the key things they focus on in teaching beginners is the power position, just making sure you're in a nice straight line on your drive. And the 3-position snatch is a great way for reinforcing that. Mm-hmm. So it's also a great way to teach a beginner. So when you have someone in your class, the 3-position snatch is ideal. You go from the hang, you go from the low hang, go from the floor. If we don't quite have that, say you have a beginner member in, they can have 3 snatches all from that hang position, and it gets them straight into the race, as opposed to they're struggling in their start position from the floor, X, Y, and Z, trying to navigate around the knees. It's a good opportunity for those members. Their like progress for a beginner might be to progress to the 3-position snatch. Mm-hmm. Someone who's a veteran member, who's competent or trying to get better at weightlifting, their goal is to increase the load on their 3-position snatch.
Awesome. So what can we expect to happen throughout this phase? Like, how are you looking to progress it from week 1 through to week 4?
Well, initially in the first week, you'll see it come up as benchmark tests. So we'll have that complex in for the clean variation, and then we'll also have the complex in for the 3-position snatch. And then from there, we'll just be using a variety of different time under tension methods. The initial start point will be to create more fatigue than the complex would actually have. So the time it takes to complete the complex is probably 30 seconds on that clean complex, and then maybe a little bit quicker, more like 20 seconds on the snatch. We'll look to increase that time under tension with maybe some front squats, maybe some extra shoulder to overhead. If you find, like, if you watch the semi-final, a lot of people did a huge amount of good work, 3 cleans, 2 front squats, and then you could just see their legs were a bit hollow. Yeah. So just being confident on good footwork on the jerk. So we may add some things there. And then over time, we won't look to ever reduce below that time under tension. we'll just look to get in and around it and try lots of different variations there. So that's how we'll progress it. And also, I feel like complexes are quite fun, and they have a unique challenge. I notice it's very mentally difficult when you're doing those complex, when you're in the heart of it and you're like, got to keep tension on, I can't be lazy, I've got to keep focused to get this work done, as opposed to, say, you're doing 3 singles from the floor, the brain can tend to like lapse and get a bit lazy in between reps. That's not going to happen here.
Yeah, awesome. I think to add to that as well, like you said, people have got to stay switched on. Passes on to barbell cycling work as well. Like, there's plenty of skills in there that as a coach you can, pick up on that you might not usually focus on, like re-gripping of the bar, super simple stuff like that passes on to, CrossFit workouts that we have, throughout the weeks, throughout the year as well. The retest for that will be in the 5th week. So in that actual reset week, we'll put the retest of both the clean complex and the snatch complex in there as well. Is there anything else you want to add onto the weightlifting side of things?
Nothing in particular. I think the small segues into what we're actually going to be looking at in our raw strength, and it's going to kind of feed in nicely into our focus is going to be the front squat, and we're going to use a format or an adapted format of what we did when we first come back to gyms after lockdown, where we wanted people to squat, but we understood that there was an extended period of time where they hadn't been squatting. So we phased it back in. But what it did do is it got people working at good intensities, and then the adaptation come. Where we think of adaptation is if we just lump on too much intensity or too much difficulty, what you'll find is people are just never going to recover and see the results from it. So this phased return was great for giving people just enough to get a little bit stronger. And then each week we looked to add a little bit more. And it had huge results. Like the results coming in from when we put this in our program in was massive. So we're going to do a similar format. We're going to use the front squat, and we're going to start with a 5x5, which sits along the athlete plan quite nicely. Front squat's not necessarily in there on the athlete plan every week, but it is going to be for us. And in the first week, we're going to use a slightly lower percentage than what you traditionally see at a 5x5. 5x5 is normally 80-85%. This we're going to start at 70%. And then we're going to look at having a max rep set at the end with a cap. So a certain number of reps. If you get to that point, you box it off, you put it in. Then the next week, we'll still see 5x5, but we're looking at adding some weight to our front squats. So the conversation for members is, this is not an all out in week 1, 5x5. This is something that I want to see maybe 5 to 7.5 kilos on next week. And then the 3rd week, another 5 to 7.5 kilos on. And that last set will always be a max. So we can look at setting some rep challenges for the members that are competitive. For the people that are just trying to improve their front squat positioning, it's at a weight that will challenge you, but allow you to move well. So that's our kind of accessory strength piece. Our focus is the complexes. And as we've spoken about multiple occasions, we can't be trying to progress everything all at 100%. Yeah. Our focus is the complex. But on the back side of it, to increase our leg strength and our positioning in the front squat will help the complex quite a bit.
Yeah, like you said before, we've used this, progression similar to this before, just very linear, increasing the weight each week, and it worked wonders. There was, lots of people that ended up hitting weights that were pretty close to previous 1 rep maxes and that sort of stuff. So makes sense to bring this back in, but also develop it as well and evolve it. I think especially with that max rep set in there, it's just quite nice to, again, just want to get that little bit more time under tension, keeps the competitive people happy, can push to that rep max. People will potentially get new PBs when they do the max rep set as well, without even really kind of noticing, because they'll probably input the score and be like, oh, like I could only hit that for 5, and then this week they hit it for 8. So it's a good opportunity to, just tick off them small wins without people knowing too much. But again, as we're going through this phase, just get members to try and check in what their old, rep maxes are as we go through the weeks and just see if they can check, some of those off as well. So yeah.
And it's the go-to strength start point. 5 sets of 5. If you're thinking, if anyone like walks into a gym, 15-year-old or 50-year-old who've never exercised before, and they've got a fundamental base, they can squat well, and you're like, okay, what squat plan would I put them on to increase their leg strength? You're probably going to go for that middle ground. It's not too fewer reps that they can't get hypertrophy adaptation from. That 25 reps is pretty good, maybe up to 30 if they do their max set. And then on the flip side, it's not too high a rep where they haven't actually got load going through their spine. It's the go-to set rep, and you can't argue it. You ask any strength and conditioning person in the world, where would they go to if they could pick it? Mm-hmm. Most people are going to say 5 by 5. So your members are going to be in good hands with this one.
Good stuff. Right, where do you want to go to next? Gymnastics?
Well, it's next on the list, isn't it? So we should really just keep going down the line, right?
Cool. So for the gymnastics, time and attention again. Yep. Similar to the weightlifting as well. We're after the time and attention on weightlifting. Same for the gymnastics. And we've picked out toes to bar specifically for this. Do you want to go through the what, whys, hows? So
yeah. So toes to bar. Why toes to bar? It's probably the movement from a member's perspective. That's potentially the most achievable movement for the majority of your members. Yeah. So this format does work with every gymnastics movement. It works with the muscle up, it works with the chest to bar, chin over the bar. But the reason we've chosen toes to bar is for the fact that more of your members are in the conversation for this. Mm-hmm. Now, we're not saying that every member can do toes to bar, and I'm not saying that at all, but I'm saying the majority of people can do one of the 3 options that we're looking to start with. Okay, so how the format actually works is the goal is to increase the amount of time under tension, and in turn that is going to give you an opportunity to then adapt. And then when we repeat the sessions, the goal is to increase the amount of time under tension, i.e. more work, which will then make us fitter, stronger, faster, the usual kind of stuff. So I'll explain the format, because when you first read this, you'll be like, where do I start? Do I start down the line or anything like that? And we'll put an example in the notes. And our example is, we'll work for 60 seconds. And then we're going to do as many toes to bar as we can do, leaving maybe 2 to 3 reps in reserve. So you're doing toes to bar, or you're doing straight leg half toes to bar, or you're doing kip swings. Those will be our 3 options for levels as an athlete. And then when you feel like you've got 2 to 3 left, i.e. you're not falling off the pull-up bar because you're trying to do a max set and beat the person next to you, you'll then come down and transition into farmer's walks as quick as possible. So then you'll be going down and you'll be moving through those farmer's walks as quick as possible, a couple of dumbbells held correctly. And then in that remaining time, if there is any, you would then look to then just hit a dead hang and just hang on to that position. Now, that's one of the formats that we offer, where it's self-guided, where it's 60 seconds of work, and when you break down, you break down. Another format which we're going to include in here to give it some variation is some time bracketed work. So we'll do 20 seconds of toes to bar, we'll do 20 seconds of farmer's walks, and then we'll do 20 seconds of dead hanging. So we're still working for that 60 seconds. The reason both these formats work is the self-guided means you can really push the boat out. You can get bigger numbers on that first movement, and then it gets sequentially a little bit less. Mm-hmm. On the other side, to feel like you're still in the party, you've got 20 seconds to continue to work on that skill. And the goal is to just continue to move through those variations, so everyone moves through at the same time. From a coaching perspective, it's a lot more chaos management there. It's a lot easier to manage because everyone's doing their bit up there, and then you say transition and everyone moves to the next bit and everyone's on their dumbbells and so on and so forth, as opposed to the pro guy still doing toes to bar over there and then the new person's hanging on the bar but you haven't seen them do a farmer's walk. So there's a few different variations we'll include, but the principle still remains the same. The goal is to increase the amount of time under tension.
Awesome. The initial test for this is on Saturday. So in this reset phase of this deload week, it's a 5-minute test of toes to bar. Again, when we retest that, it's likely to be in that 5th week again, isn't it? In that kind of reset week, that deload week. So you're aware of that. And just to build on what Jamie said, obviously the goal is to increase the amount of toes to bar that you can do as we go through the weeks. So first week, people might be only able to get 8 reps, but by the 4th week, as people adapt and get used to it, hopefully they can hold on for 12 to 15 reps. And I think just making people aware that the reason why we repeat stuff is so that the body can adapt. The body adapts a lot quicker when you do repeat stuff. And hopefully when people see the results week upon week, they'll kind of feel like, oh, I'm actually progressing, getting better, rather than it being totally different. And there's that balance, isn't there, Jamie, between repeating stuff too much and it getting boring, but also kind of changing it too much and not quite getting the adaptations, or, you know, maximizing the adaptations that we, you know, could have had as well.
Definitely. There was something we spoke about when we were down in London recently, and we were talking to some coaches in London about giving the member what they want versus giving the member what they need, and what ratio do you have of those two things. And it's a very fine line, and I'd say it's always on a sliding scale in the year. It's also a sliding scale of like the members you have as well. So like every gym is slightly different. How we are subtly varying the toes to bar as well, one thing to add in is that 2 things tend to break down on toes to bar: your grip endurance or your midline. So in those sessions, you're going to see, when you see farmers walks and dead hangs, hopefully the coaches among your spot, it's definitely grip endurance that we're trying to improve here. And when you do some toes to bar and then you do 3 V-ups because your midline's absolutely tosh, like me and Jack found out when we did it recently, we'll know that it's based around midline. And those are the variations that you'll see kind of dotted in the plan. And we like to do things that we know work. And this has been in the athlete plan in the last phase, and it's had huge rewards there. If you look at the community chat, the amount of people that have gone from quite small numbers to like substantial toes to bar numbers is great. And we were like, well, we can't leave you guys out on this.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the other thing to be aware of during this phase with gymnastics and workouts and stuff. So in the past, we've always sneakily, like when we've not used a movement specifically like as a focus. So for example, with toes to bar, you can see, right, this is what we're doing. This is what we're trying to do. Expect this kind of format to be happening sneakily in workouts as well throughout this phase. So for example, you might see, you know, handstand push-ups in a workout, and then maybe a slightly lower skill version of, you know, handstand push-ups like push press or something like that happening. So there will be some sneaky workouts throughout this phase with a similar focus, you know, on the gymnastics, like I just gave as an example then. So yeah, we're sneaky like that.
We are. Got to trick the members, haven't you?
It's good for them. Cool. Anything to add onto gymnastics there, Jamie?
No, nothing that I can really think of off the top of my head.
Cool. Right. Let's move on to the next topic then, and that's kind of capacity, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hypertrophy. We gave a little bit of an explanation last week, and this is a term, as far as I'm aware, that we have coined, like the JST. So basically, that these sessions are about low rep schemes. So by that, you'll be kind of switching between different exercises, like pretty quickly. Expect, like we said last week in the notes, the chief style workouts. And the idea is to challenge the body to pump blood from one area to another area. And also it tends to cap the intensity a little bit as well. which means that in other sessions, we can look to push that intensity a little bit more. So this is a really good kind of format to get members some good quality movement, because it's not going to be too intense, but also train the body to, like I said before, pump oxygen to different parts of the body as well. Format wise, 3 minutes on, 1 minute off. Expect that kind of format. You'll probably be mixing it up as well for the time frames, that sort of stuff. Do you want to kind of add a few more details onto what I just said there, Jamie?
Yeah, I think the initial benchmark workout is on this Friday, Friday the 24th, and it's got 2 different 3 minutes on, 1 minute off efforts where you're switching between the two, which is doubly pumping the blood around the body in lots of different variations. Like the perfect example of how this is a learned skill in the body, i.e. learning how to get blood from one end of the body to the other under fatigue, is Fran is the perfect example of the workout. Like, it leaves you absolutely floored. All the blood goes into the legs, then and maybe into a bit of the shoulders when you're doing the thrusters. Then you do the pull-ups, it's in your lats and your biceps. Then it's trying to get back to your legs, and it's then sitting in the middle of your stomach because it doesn't know what way it's going to go. And that's why you have that horrible gut feeling, that taste in your mouth, and you're like, why was that so hard? I can do pull-up, I can do thrusters, it's the combination. So that's what we're going to try to train, because everything's trainable. And people tend to avoid these kind of workouts. So you think of those guys and girls that are good on like the long cyclical events, even for instance, burpees without any other movement. If you just practice that one skill, your body gets used to cycling the blood in a way that's a very rhythmical thing. You're staying rowers, for instance, they're moving forwards and backwards, they're used to it. Get them to go up and down, and all of a sudden it's a different conversation. The fact that they're like 6'6" as well, it does really change the dynamics of the human body. So we want to do this, and I think this is the closest possible thing that you'll see to CrossFit. Like, that's not just a 8-minute AMRAP or an open workout. Like, these are the variations and the training systems that you would use to get really good at CrossFit. And I think it's very appropriate at the minute, because obviously people want to get good at CrossFit and the GPP style training that we offer. Yeah. So that kind of goes into a bit more about what we're trying to achieve here, and giving people and the members the feel for it as well. Like, they're like, well, why are we doing this? We're like, well, if the goal is to improve your CrossFit journey. You're not doing CrossFit if you're not doing 3 minutes on, 1 minute off in some form or other. You're just not. And if you say you're doing CrossFit but you're not, you're lying. These are the things that are pretty tough. The Chief's a great benchmark workout, but you'll see loads of other variations that kind of sit within that Chief format: 5 rounds, 3 minutes on, 1 minute off.
I think as well, like when you look at all the different like focuses for this phase, obviously for the toes bar and for the weightlifting, we're looking for that time and attention, which is going to test your muscular endurance, you know, how you can handle that fatigue. Whereas for this capacity focus, it's not testing that area at all. So it's important, you know, we're kind of two opposite ends of the spectrum. And as we get kind of through the phases, expect that to come, you know, closer together and intersect more. But it makes sense to kind of test the extremes first, and then, like I say, you bring them together. Another good example of that, when I was reading some of Phil's notes from earlier on in the year, is that if you're an athlete and you tend to take, you know, two opposite, like the furthest point away from the season, you work on the long list stuff where it's 60 minutes, you know, doing aero, and then you're doing the really short sprints. And as you get to the game time of the season, the idea is to meet those two at the same point. So throughout the year, it gradually becomes closer. And I always feel like that's just a really good thing to just bear in mind. So yeah, same thing here. We're starting two kind of opposite ends, and we'll look to kind of bring them together as we go through the months moving forward. So yeah. Is there anything else we've not mentioned here?
No, we've mentioned the format, how long the phase or the block of training is going to be. It kicks off on Monday. Got conversations to have with your members is you don't have to, if you miss a session, don't panic, just jump back on the horse, jump back in where it is. We tend to write sessions that are easily joinable throughout the season. So people go away, they come back. Obviously to see the 100% of the benefits, the goal is to attend every session and do every one. And I know some of your members will do that. I know some of your members will be more, I had a conversation with someone, a new member at TO, and he was like, he turned up at the wrong time. He turned up for a CrossFit class and it was gymnastics. He was like, I'm rubbish at gymnastics, I'll see you in an hour. And I was like, well, you should be here. So we gave him a free session, got him in, got him stuck in. And he was like, oh, actually, I got a little bit better. And I was like, yeah, you only get better at the stuff you're not good at is if you throw yourself in. And I think for you guys as coaches, the challenge is pick out a couple of members that are barbell junkies and get them to their gymnastic time under tension. And on the flip side, that person who's going to search out the hypertrophy stuff, they just want to they feel like, oh, 3 minutes on, 1 minute off, I'm going to smash the doors off on this, but they're never able to RX the weight on the barbell. So chief, they're always at 50 or 30, and they could do it at 60 if they just got a little bit stronger. Get them in on the complexes, it will make a massive difference. But like what Phil said, like you got to work the outside ends and then you bring it back to middle. I guarantee if you're a bit stronger, Fran's a little bit easier because the thruster's a bit lighter.
Yeah, 100%. Good. Just to be super clear as well, so this phase starts on the 27th of June, by which point we'll have tested some benchmarks already. We'll have one or two other things to test that first week though as well. And then that reset week of the deload week, whatever you want to call it, starts the 25th of July. So that will be the week when we retest bits and bobs. So yeah. Awesome. Anything else we want to drop on them that we've got coming up? I don't think there's too much going on. The one thing I'm going to mention now, actually. So at the moment, we've obviously got WhatsApp groups with all you guys, but we've not kind of got we've not got a way where you're all in the same group and we can kind of talk about stuff a little bit more. We will soon be starting up a Circle community group. So Circle is an app that helps to build communities up. And on there, we'll have all the people that are on JST Athlete on there. We're going to create a group for people that follow the class program on there, but you will be able to basically see like the different areas as well as the JST train class stuff. And on Circle as well, it's quite possible that we may just put the video and the text each week in that Circle community group rather than sending them through WhatsApp. That's not confirmed. We'll have a bit more of a discussion about that. But we'll still keep the WhatsApp groups so that you can send us messages, questions. But I think if we post them in the Circle group, hopefully there'll be a little bit more talking between you guys. You can kind of share any stories or ask any questions, and that might answer someone else's question as well. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Like I say, it'll probably be the next couple of weeks. I'm hoping actually to get it set up for next week. So we'll see how we get on though. That's the goal though. So yeah, I think other than that, there's not too much going on. Summer's here. Yeah, I think that's
it. Certainly is. I think this weekend is the last chance qualifiers. So if you want to expose your members to watching more CrossFit, which I know I'm certainly one of those people that is like, I'll watch someone do a wall ball. Like, I don't know why. I'll just watch someone do like a ridiculously heavy lift or something crazy on a machine. So yeah, I think that's this weekend. On the female side, there's loads of women that they probably expected to go to the games, but they didn't, and they're on the outside looking in. So it was going to be interesting to see who actually get. I think it's two women and 2 men get those opportunity. Be great to see.
Yeah, be awesome. Cool. Right, we'll wrap it up there, and we'll see you guys soon. We'll keep you in the loop.
Speak to you soon.